Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is, are we on? I think I see us on TV out here. It is January 14th, and this is our regularly scheduled business meeting of the Leon County School Board at the Aquilina Howell Center. And at this time, I'd like to call on our student school board member to lead us in the pledge, if everyone would please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Got to turn this off.
Thank you. At this time, I'll recognize board member and vice chair Bowen to read the changes and additions into the record for tonight.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. The changes and additions are as follows. Item 1, 15.01, Ardeman and Associates, Inc., Amendment Number 1, Leon High School Athletic Field Project. Move to consideration. This is now item 19.03. 2, 17.01, Ram Constructions and Development, LLC, release of retainage. Fairview Middle School Phase 1 project, move to consideration. This is now item 19.04. Number 3, 17.02, Ram Construction and Development, LLC, release of retainage. Fairview Middle School Phase 3 project, move to consideration. This is now item 19.05. 4, item 17.03, Ram Construction and Development, LLC, release of retainage. Fairview Middle School Phase 4 project, move to consideration. This is now item 19.06. Number 5, item 18.02, semi-annual construction report, March 1, 2019 to August 31st, 190, move to consideration. This is now item 1907. Item 6, 18.03, semi-annual construction report, September 1, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. Move to consideration. This is now item 19.08. These items were moved from the consent agenda to the consideration agenda in order to facilitate compliance with applicable ethics code requirements. Number 7, item 7.04, approval of personnel actions, replace documentation. Number 8, add item 19.09, Donald L. Tuckle Civic Center, license agreement for 2020 Leon County Schools graduation and rehearsals. Staff received final approval for this annual contract after the school board agenda was published.
Thank you. Ms. Bowen moves approval. Is there a second? Second. Second by Ms. Wood. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved. Thank you. Mr. Superintendent?
Madam Chair, if I may, we have a spotlight tonight, so at this time I'd like to bring up Eric Clark, the director of Leon County Schools Foundation. He has some special guests with him that'd like to make a presentation. So, Mr. Clark.
We always like it when he has presentations.
Yes.
Young people know this.
Well, thank you all very much. It's a pleasure to be here again, and it's always a pleasure when we're getting a check. And I'm going to turn it over to these two young gentlemen from Florida State University, part of the music educators group, and they're going to tell you all about why we're getting a check.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Hope you all are having a great day. My name is Anthony Ruffin, and I am the current president of FSU Collegiate NAFME chapter. NAFME standing for the National Association for Music Education.
And I'm David. I serve as the immediate past president for the same chapter.
So today we're here to present a grant that our organization voted on to help support education, music education in Leon County schools. We have a grant for the elementary schools that you have here in Leon County schools. A little bit about what we do on a day-to-day basis. NAFME is a national organization that falls into different divisions such as state and even a collegiate division to help develop future music educators. And our chapter at FSU tries to focus on 5 different categories: leadership, education, advocacy, professional development, and service. So this is one of our efforts to serve the community and advocate for music education.
So in terms of where this money came from, our chapter is one of the largest in Florida. It is extremely well off, and we recently found out that we have a lot of funds in our bank account, which we really don't need. So
Oh, you don't need to tell that in front of me.
You thought you could put them to better use. How
I
about
did. We did. So we have a proposal for where these funds should go. For the purposes of music education, we realized that retention is one of the key focuses that the organization tends to lean on. We understand that students in elementary schools are the easiest to reach in terms of getting music to the student and having them remain within the program throughout their middle and high school years. And if we provide them with the greatest experience in their elementary training, then hopefully we believe they will stay with music education throughout middle and high school. So this is what we propose. The Florida State University's NAFME Collegiate Chapter has decided to offer an amount of $7,980 to the Leon County
Listen, you'll be more excited.
Leon County School District to support music programs across Leon County. How we have outlined this grant is it is meant to financially support the following Title I elementary school music programs. These are specifically Title I programs that we found on the Leon County School website that have a music program or music teacher, and these are the following: Appalachia Elementary, Astoria Park Elementary, Bond Elementary, Chairs Elementary, Fort Braden K through 8, Hartsfield Elementary, Oak Ridge Elementary, Pineview Elementary, Riley Elementary, Rudiger Elementary, Sable Palm Elementary, Sealy Elementary, Springwood Elementary, and Woodville K through 8. The allocation previously mentioned will be divided amongst the 14 schools evenly. That breaks down to $570.00 for the purposes of supporting the music education program. These funds are to be spent by the music teacher solely for whatever needs they deem worthy to further the efforts of their specific and respective programs. We just ask that they go to the music teacher, to the program directly, and hopefully these could be spent on whatever instruments, resources they need to, again, provide their students with a quality elementary music education. And yeah, I believe that is all we have. So.
That is a tremendous. Sorry, sir. Would you like to speak? Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to see if any of you all had any questions. I'm just very impressed with these two young gentlemen. We don't need to let them leave Tallahassee.
Right.
I'd like to echo and just say thank you very much for this generous donation. I was in Tampa last weekend. We had a number of our students from Leon County that were all-state, selected the all-state groups, as various groups, and orchestra and chorus, and different bands as well. But it starts at a young age, and I remind board members, in addition to the $500,000 that we commit every year to support our middle and high school music and arts programs, we also have a Quaver program at about $40,000 a year, so all of our elementary schools are funded with, because we know starting at a young age that these kids, we get them involved in something positive, especially in the field of music. They're gonna excel in academically as well. But just thank you and thank everyone at Florida State. If you could pass that along from my office, and I know from the board members, for this generous donation. We're very appreciative, and I can promise you it'll go exactly where you want and be put to good use. And those teachers are going to be very excited.
He's being a little bit modest. Part of the reason he was in Tampa is because he was recognized as the Music Educator Superintendent of the Year. Isn't that right, Mr. Hannon?
Right.
And our board has a long history of supporting the arts and specifically music. And in particular, a few years ago when we were having a lot of budget cuts, we made a very strong decision to find a way to continue to fund elementary music education. So these dollars will be put to good use. Ms. Wood, would you like to tell them what the students are doing going to Carnegie Hall?
Well, they're going to make their own announcement tomorrow night
Oh.
at 6 p.m., so I don't want to steal any thunder about that, but
Okay.
just stay tuned.
Very good. Mr. Jones.
Yes, I think I just want to applaud you that you had the sensibility to reward our Title I schools with those funds. I just think that is extraordinary as we continue to heighten the opportunity that is found in supporting our Title I schools, and our young people who attend those schools can enjoy the same type of enriching activities. For you to have made this type of investment in our young people is extraordinary, and we are very, very grateful as a district
Yes.
and as a school board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
All right.
I hope y'all don't expect me to do this every month.
Why not?
It seems like that's been a trend here lately.
Don't stop.
Just don't touch it for this driver. You should have seen me bringing it over here. I think I should have put gloves on. Well, Heather did the writing. I did not. Trust me, I did not do the writing.
Hey, Eric, real quick, do you mind coming back to the podium? So I know that we had a meeting on December 10th, and after that meeting, I know y'all read in this paper, we had a huge, very generous donation by Ballard Partners and the Ballard family of $50,000 to the Leon County Schools Foundation to support needy children and families that are in our public school system. And so we all went on a shopping spree. We were all spread out across Walmart and all different kinds of places, and we brought a Christmas, or with the help of the Ballard firm, made a Christmas happen for a lot of kids who otherwise would not have had a Christmas at all. And I want to thank you publicly, Eric, for all of your support, going above and beyond. Over the holidays, he was sending me text messages about washers and dryers and who needed what, where, and I just want that speaks to the person you are in your heart. And you're in the right place. And I just wanted to thank you for all of your help over the holidays to make a Christmas special for a lot of kids who otherwise wouldn't have had one. That means a
Well,
lot.
Thank you. That was very kind words, and not deserving. The Ballards are the ones who, Ballard Partners, they deserve the credit. And I'll be honest with you, I had nothing to do with getting that donation. I know as a fundraiser, I'm not supposed to say that, but your superintendent gets that credit. It was not me. I was just fortunate enough to be the person that was there to pick up a check. And we are going to do some great things with that money. We still have a good amount left, and they ask us to use it for our families who are in the greatest need, and do some things. It was a great way to start our Christmas break that Friday by going and shopping, and your superintendent, matter of fact, picked up a washer and dryer this past weekend from someone that donated to us. So don't let him fool you that other people who do all the work. This gentleman here did it as well. So thank you all very much, and we hope to have some more really good things to report on that funds, and who knows, hopefully that'll be a recurring gift. We'll
Catalyst.
just have to see how it goes. Thank you all. Any
Great.
questions?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right, thank you all.
All right, don't see any recognitions. or reports to be heard until item 5.04, mental health update. Dr. Cox, Disc Village.
Am I in the right calendar? I don't see that.
Okay. Mr. Superintendent, board members, thank you for having me up here this evening. I thought it was important to do a brief reminder of it's got to be one of the most successful partnerships that I think we've had with an outside agency since I've been around, and that's Disc Village. As a reminder, the Parkland situation was about 2 years ago, but before that, we started something called social emotional learning in our district, which is now a big national catch-all phrase, and we got partnership with Disc Village right here. And I want Kristen Dabrowski to come up, please, and Jordan Cowart to come up. Okay, let me tell you real quick about this group. Disc Village came to us and they said, we want to put, we called them mental health counselors at the time, but they're really kind of wellness champions, and they do other things in the mental health area. But they put one in every secondary school. Now, right there, just having a bot in every secondary school is almost $1 million worth of contributions to this district. Then when the allocation from 70-26 and 70-30, those were the two safety acts, when they came down, remember, John Hunkier's got a piece for target hardening, and we have a piece for mental health. We took that money and we gave it to the contractor with them to provide these folks at our elementary schools. So we have about one at every 4 elementary schools, and we purchased some more MSWs, social masters in social work. So what I wanted them to do is to share with you, and you're going to be surprised by this data on the number of contacts. It's really quite astounding. So Kristen, Jordan?
Just really quickly before Kristen gets into the numbers and the data, I want to thank Dr. Cox for all of his work with Disc Village. A lot of work goes in behind the scenes, as well as Ms. Dabrowski. So thank you for the board support, and I'll turn it over to Kristen.
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting us be here this evening. This is actually a really great opportunity for us to share some of this information that we've been able to collect over the last few years. My name is Kristen Dabrowski. I'm the Youth Services Director with Disc Village. I oversee the facilitation of what we call our Health and Wellness Program, which facilitates the New Horizons curriculum in our local schools here in Leon County. We serve K through 12. We started this partnership, as Dr. Cox said, many years ago, back in 2008. We started in just 4 schools in the county. We had 2 high schools and 2 middle schools. Then kind of fast forwarding until 2016, we were able to add some new programs with 4 additional high schools and 2 additional middle schools. The next year, we were able to expand to 3 additional schools in the county. And then finally, this most recent school year of 2018-2019, we were able to add the 23 elementary schools, the 4 charter schools, and the remaining 3 schools in Leon County. So now we have a staff person that is assigned to each school, K through 12. Through these programs, our specialists facilitate what Dr. Cox mentioned as a social emotional learning curriculum called New Horizons. It is an opportunity for students to develop life skills that center around communication, anger management, conflict resolution, positive decision-making strategies. We also offer crisis intervention, conflict resolution sessions, as well as peer mediation to our students. We aim to reduce the risk of drug use, school delinquency, unhealthy anger outbursts by encouraging the development of effective and lasting self-management and interpersonal skills. Our goal is to assist the students in the development of these constructive decision-making strategies by offering that safe and supportive environment for them to come in and discuss these things that they're experiencing, discuss the things that are challenging them, and be able to overcome those things. As you can see on the data story, as of last year, between the months of August and November, we had roughly 62,000 engagements with students across the county. This year, at that same time period, we had a 39.8% increase and have seen over 108,000 student engagements. That means that we've had 108,000 students come to us regarding these issues that they're experiencing in the classroom, they're experiencing in their social relationships, and they're experiencing at home.
Can I ask a quick question, clarifying, just for the benefit of anybody listening? We have about 30,000 students district-wide, 33,000 students. So if you had 108,000 student contacts, obviously that's
duplicated students. And
Students.
so the way our program operates is we track students who come into our office on a daily basis. So we do have what we call frequent flyers who come to us multiple days throughout the week because they're struggling
okay,
with
but-
something major. Absolutely.
I just wanted to clarify. And when you say came to your office, it's the school-based office?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great.
These
Thank you.
programs are located in the school setting. It gives the students the opportunity to drop in for a service or have a scheduled weekly session with our staff. It is in their environment, so it's access it to our staff in the moment of a crisis.
Right, beautiful. Keep going, sorry.
Along with the curriculum, our staff offer peer mediation, conflict resolution, and that crisis intervention service to assist our students who are experiencing difficulties with their behavioral health. If you look at the totals and down at the bottom, you'll see that we've had quite a large array of students who've come in on different levels. We're not quite sure why October of this year was pretty intensive for our elementary students, but we see that these things change based on what it is that the students are dealing with. We see that if they've got something major happening in their community, major happening in their home, major happening in their school, they're reaching out for those resources, which is a great tool for them to be able to deal with and manage some of these hardships that they're going through. A lot of these increases can be explained by multiple factors: increased exposure in the school setting, students feeling more comfortable and confident talking about some of these things that have traditionally been taboo, increased exposure to personal loss, so they are experiencing more of these things, so they need more resources. We've had a great response from the schools that we're in the community, working relationships with our staff and their staff to be able to meet the needs of the students that we're seeing. When our staff encounter a youth that's experiencing more serious challenge in the school setting, we typically, these typically could be situations that meet qualifications for state reporting standards. We work hands-on with your staff in the schools with risk management assessments, all of those things that came out of those new standards that Dr. Cox mentioned. Really monitoring the safety of the child, making sure that the well-being is really accounted for. We make sure that throughout the year that we provide adequate training for our staff to make sure that these policies and procedures are put in place so that we are looking out for the overall well-being of the students that we serve.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones?
Excuse me, I've got a tickle in my throat. I think what you do for us is extraordinary.
Well, thank you.
One of the things that I think makes it so important and equally impactful is that you mitigate what could be lifelong mental health issues that our young people may be dealing with, and through the early identification that occurs through the contact through their schools where they spend a great deal of time, I think is a step towards recovery. I'm also interested in knowing. So thank you to Disc Village. Is Tom Oak still the?
He is no longer our CEO. However, he still has a pretty strong presence over at the agency.
Okay. Well, I think that type of interest and that type of business investment in our schools is what we applaud and what we want more of. And so, thank you to Disc Village. But now I'd like to ask you a question as a subject matter expert as well. In some school districts across the country, they are also doing assessments, student assessments of trauma. And now with what Mr. Cox describes, because he reminds us often here as board members that that with having to teach and other requirements that are imposed on our teachers through policy, that oftentimes that any additional responsibility becomes a burden. Is it possible then that perhaps student trauma assessments might be done by the staff that comes from Disc Village and has found itself appropriately dispersed across the expanse of our school district? And is it worthwhile to do these types of trauma assessments?
I think absolutely 100% it's worthwhile. I think this year in particular has been a tough one across the community. There's been a lot of loss, a lot of trauma that's been exposed to our kids, whether it's in the community or friends that they know from school, past students, current students. I think right now the concept of trauma informed is a buzzword, but it's always been something that's really important to kind of the counseling field and understanding the past experiences that the individual that we're serving is seeing. We do incorporate an assessment when we work with students that takes a snapshot of things such as anxiety, depression, PTSD, trauma, past experiences with anger. And so we take that snapshot to see what are we dealing with when they walk in the door. And we have that student identify what they've experienced. And so some of those assessments play into how we proceed with services. We also take that same assessment at the end of services to see how they've made some improvements, how they've overcome some things. I think absolutely adding some more information regarding that. Trauma is just going to move us further and further into the realm of meeting the needs of the students that we're serving, because it is a lot more impactful than originally thought. And so we see a lot of kids who are dealing with some of these social emotional development issues that comes from trauma. And so we're trying to incorporate new concepts, new ideas as much as possible. We actually just started discussing that this week to see what opportunities we have to kind of incorporate that more into the culture of the program and the culture of the communication between our staff and yours.
And based upon what you described with your elementary schools and being at 1 and 4, are those trauma assessments done as students are identified, or do we do them school-wide?
They're done as students are identified for the program.
Ms. Bowen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have you discovered during your counseling sessions that it has been necessary to refer for long-term therapy? At what point do you take a look at needs outside of what you're doing as counselors and psychologists there?
So we see that all the time. When we do that initial intake assessment with a student, we identify whether or not we believe they're going to need more intensive services than what we're able to provide on that one-on-one or group level in the school. And so we have a couple of different referral sources that we work with. We actually have an internal program that's providing services for Medicaid eligible youth. That's a more intensive counseling-based service. We also have a direct memorandum of understanding between Appalachia Center and ourselves. We have a list of referral sources that we provide to the school that might be in addition to or similar to what listing they have. We do what we can to make sure that we have referrals available for them, whether that's for counseling services or additional activities or things that we think would be a good fit for the student to get involved in.
Along with your peer mediation program, I shall call it, has there been a decrease in the numbers, I don't know that you would know this, of needs, or do you tie that into disciplinary concerns or issues?
It's kind of on a school-by-school basis. We do a lot of peer mediation at the middle school level with female groups. We see a lot of disagreements and things that need just kind of a third-party individual being a part of that. And what we've seen out of doing some of those peer mediations is actually strengthening groups of skills development, and have kind of turned into a weekly opportunity for students to get together to talk about the things that they were disagreeing on or having issues with, and they've actually formed more beneficial bonds.
Good. So in the young women, I understand that there's an uptick in the need for services with some of our young women. Have you done, and perhaps you just spoke to this and I missed it, groups for them to see what we might do to curtail some of the issues that are there?
We have some schools that do provide specifically girls groups. I know at Fairview there's one that our staff person's actively involved in. It's a school-by-school basis.
Okay.
We try to fit the need of what the students are dealing with and what the school is looking for, so that we can be as effective as possible for the faculty and staff.
Sorry, we interrupted your.
Absolutely.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
we did. Do you want to let her finish and then, or do you have a?
Okay.
Okay, we'll let you finish. Then
Okay.
you have a couple of questions at the end of the table.
Perfect. So the last thing I wanted to touch on is our incident reporting concept. We do have some situations that I mentioned in which we do have state reporting requirements. This year we've had 55 incident reports from August to November that have incorporated activities or instances seen in that chart. That includes abuse, Baker Act, sexual assault, child-on-child sexual assault, suicidal ideation or other. That other incorporates bullying, fighting, inappropriate social media activity, kind of a culmination of anything else that a kid might disclose to us that we feel warrants a need to kind of take a next step. Those reports are submitted through us internally and then are submitted to our funders to be able to track and see what it is that we're dealing with on a mass scale.
Ms. Wood?
No, just thank you, as the other board members have said, and I know that there's some staff development going on in certain schools on this trauma-informed education, and so there's a lot of Oasis Center for Girls is working with girls groups. So I'm happy that we have more than more than just you. We need a lot
Absolutely.
of people on this. But thank you so much for the coordination you're doing. So
Thank you.
it's very helpful and very important. We know that suicide risk and all that is just going up, up, up. So this is critical that you do this. Thank you.
Ms. Strickland?
Thank you. Same thing. Just thank you so much for what you guys do for our schools. I know Alan has talked about Disc Village for a while now, and it's really nice to hear exactly what you guys are in there doing. And I love that you're in every single school, and would love an annual update on this,
Absolutely.
on the numbers and
Yes.
what you're seeing. And one question. If a student hasn't really been identified as any issues, but is just having a meltdown and needs to come in and see somebody, is that available to them?
It is. So we do deal with in the moment crises.
Okay.
We have students who have explained to a teacher that they're having something go on that they need some assistance with. So we do offer drop-in opportunities for students to come in and talk about what might be going on. It's interesting to see kind of how students react. They'll come in and say, someone said I could talk to you about something, and then they start to open up, and so we build that relationship with them, and we make sure that throughout that entire process that we're keeping the school in loop in case there's something going on that needs some additional attention after the fact.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Would you, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I thank you also, thank you again. Would you also have, if not here, well, and you're going to be making reports annually, perhaps more regularly, a breakdown of the kind of issues that students bring when it comes ethnic to ethnic?
We don't necessarily collect that now. That's something that we can definitely look into. We do collect those demographics,
Yes.
and we just don't have it broken down as far as each subject area. But that's something that we're always looking at new ways to report information, and so that's definitely something that we can look to incorporate.
Yes, I'd be interested in just knowing that.
Absolutely.
To see. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Jones?
I'm also interested in knowing about the diversity of your staff as it meets the needs of our children across the district.
So we currently have 32 specialists who offer services in this program. Not all 32 are assigned here in Leon County. We do have a wide range of age group. We have some staff who are currently getting their MSW, some staff who are currently working on their licensure, whether it's in social work or mental health. We have a few licensed individuals on our staff currently. We have multiple males in our program, which is kind of unheard of in the world of behavioral health. I wouldn't say unheard of, but we have a couple of great males as role models in some of our programs across the district. We have quite a few females who have really just had a passion for working with kids. As far as the detailed information, I don't have it with me, but I can definitely provide it.
You'll get that to us when?
I can get it to you tomorrow.
Okay, and y'all will share that with us? Yeah. Right. Thank you again for what you're doing for us. It's enormously important.
I definitely couldn't do it without my specialists in the schools. They're fantastic boots on the ground. So
Thank you very much. We
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
being here and everything that you do every day.
absolutely. You all have a good evening.
Thank you, you
you.
too, ma'am.
Right. Moving to item number
Bye-bye.
6.
How you
Are
doing?
there any persons to be heard? No speakers. No one in the audience wishing to be heard. Okay. That takes us to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to move the consent agenda?
So move, Madam Chair.
Moved by Ms.
Second.
Bowen, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Show it unanimously approved.
And there's
excuse
one
me?
comment I wanted, I believe.
Ms.
on
Wood.
consent. Dr. Cox, before you sit down,
Dr. Cox.
I just wanted, one thing that's on the agenda is about the diabetes program, and I had some questions from some constituents who have children with diabetes. And could you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Okay, this is the TMH Memorandum of Understanding that's in your
Consent
stuff there. Okay, so let me tell you about it. It's very exciting and it's a lot of fun. It's telemedicine, okay? And so we're gonna kind of bring that to Leon County Schools before a lot of people. So we're gonna be kind of setting the bar there a little bit. Telemedicine's a big thing. We're going to pilot it, and this is between us and the Leon County Department of Health, because they have a contract with our nurses in our district, okay? So between Leon County Schools, Leon County Health Department, and TMH, we're going to pilot this in 5 schools. 5 schools have not been selected yet. And we're going to start with diabetes management. Just a reminder, we have type 1, you have type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is, for some reason, the pancreas does not secrete insulin, does not develop insulin, okay? Type 2 is onset diabetes. That's pandemic in our country. It's pandemic in our area, which means it covers large areas. And those are folks, a lot of times it's adults, but it's when our body no longer recognizes insulin, which is the hormone responsible for getting sugar out of the blood and putting it at the cellular level. That's what diabetes is, basically. But what this telemedicine does is it's a camera, and it directly reports, shows, and talks to another room, what we call a virtual room, okay, that'll have a nurse practitioner sitting in there. And it can help with, we're doing it first with diabetes, it can help with diabetes management. And that's reading blood glucose levels and reading insulin dosage and those things that sometimes we have issues with at the school level. Now, it doesn't stop there. It's unlimited on this thing, okay? Teledentistry is huge, and that's, we got another group that we're going to bring in front of it that we're going to try to pilot that with. But I tell you what, it looks like that. It's a wand that has a camera on the end of it, okay? And for teledentistry, you take that and you put it inside somebody's mouth, a child's mouth, and you can see where they have abscessed teeth, or where they have what kind of issues, all those kind of things. The person on the other side can look at a child and determine what kind of illness, what kind of treatment, is it an emergency situation, all that too. It's just amazing what we can do with telemedicine these days. That's what this is. It's a pilot program to get it started. We're focusing on diabetes management because that's the biggest part of our training that we do with our school health assistants and our LPNs that we have in the school. That's it.
Very good.
I had intended we're bringing this to a board workshop. I have Lauren Faison, who's a public relations person at TMH. She's going to bring it. We've already demonstrated it, but I had to get the MOU through you first. Opal and I have been working on this before we actually did that. You're going to look at it and say, this is something else. This is really amazing. It can make a difference in our schools too, especially in a time where we don't have, we only have 6 nurses. This will help us with that kind of thing.
Excellent. Thank you for that good report. Thank you, Ms. Wood, for raising the issue. All right, that takes us to item 1901 for
Did we
consideration.
finish it?
Good evening, Board, Chair, Superintendent. 1901 is the Superintendent's recommendation to the Board for approval of Hoist Art Hagen Architects, Amendment 3 to Professional Architectural Service Contract at Rickards High School, Phase 4, New Construction, Building 24, Renovation, Remodeling, Buildings 13 and 19 project.
I move recommendation.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. I'm going to abstain from this, and all future construction-related items I'll explain due to my employment and the possibility of any perceived conflict of interest. So with a motion and a second, are you all ready to vote, or do you have any questions on this item?
No questions.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Show it
Aye.
prevailing by a vote of 4 and 1 abstention, please. Thank you. Item 1902.
Item 1902 is Superintendent's recommendation for Board approval of Amendment 1 for David H. Melvin, Inc., Colon Lakes Elementary for design and detailing associated with removal and replacement of rusted porch columns project.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Striplin, second by Mr. Jones. Again, I'll abstain. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it adopted by a vote of 4 and with 1 abstention.
Item 1903 is Arteman and Associates, Amendment 1, Leon High School Athletic Field Project.
Approval.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Striplin, second by Mr. Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no. Show it adopted by 4 and abstained by 1.
The next three are release retainage. Item 1904, Ram Construction Design Development LLC, release retainage Fairview Middle School Phase 1 project.
Move approval.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Ms. Wood. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Showed approved by a vote of 4, 1 abstention.
Item 1905 is also a release retainage, Ram Construction Development LLC, release retainage Fairview Middle School Phase 3 project.
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Bowen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Show it adopted by a vote of 4, 1 abstention.
1906, Ram Construction and Development LLC, release retainage Fairview Middle School Phase 4 project.
Move approval.
Moved by Ms. Wood, second
Second.
by Ms. Bowen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Showed adopted by a vote of 4 and 1 abstention.
Item 1907 is semi-annual construction report for March 1, 2019 through August 31st, 2019.
Move approval.
Moved by Ms. Wood, second by Ms. Striplin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Showed adopted by 4 and 1 abstention.
Item 1908 is semi-annual construction report for September 1, 2019 to December 31st, 2019.
Move approval.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Ms. Wood. All in favor? Opposed? Show it adopted by a vote of 4, 1 abstention.
I do have a question. Why do these semi-annual reports come to us at the same time?
We are overlapping. We came to you in May, and our next would have been at the reorganization meeting in November. And we've discussed that in our workshop that we will be bringing this back to the board more with the superintendent's permission, March, the first board meeting in March, and then the first board meeting in September. We're trying to get away from extremely high construction areas like the summer work and away from board meetings like reorganization and graduation board meetings.
Thank you.
Item 19.09, Dr. Gale.
There's a speaker.
Motion by Mr. Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wood. Are you ready to have any questions? This is our graduation lease with the Civic Center.
None.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Showed unanimously approved. Thank you, Dr. Gale.
Thank you.
Upcoming meetings, information items. Ms. Bowen, did you have something you wanted to add under continuing concerns or new issues?
No, AP's got it.
Sorry, wait a minute.
I think, yeah. Item 22, superintendent's comments.
Sorry.
That's all right. So briefly, Madam Chair, just a reminder on Friday, the MLK breakfast at the Leon County, or the Tucker Center at 7 a.m. Doors open at 7, program starts at 7:30. This is our partnership with the local NAACP, and we've done this for a number of years. So I'll look forward to seeing you bright and early on Friday morning. Those of you that are retired, as Roseanne's like, oh, that is early.
I've already given my check.
And I think AP, you're going to talk something about voter registration. So I'll let him have that. And I think that's it. We're off to a good start. Second semester's off and running. And had a principals meeting last Wednesday, and all the principals are rejuvenated, and teachers are rejuvenated and ready to go. You saw the report on the rally yesterday to support public schools, and I was honored to march with our teachers here in Leon County that attended. And by contract, they have hours set in their contract for political and lobbying activities. And it's not meant to be divisive. Well, I think we're all very excited about the rhetoric coming out of the governor's office, and just hope and pray that the legislature makes good on it. And we'll kind of deal with the trickle-down effect after that. But very excited about the governor. I saw a press release today that he wants to be known as the education governor. And so yeah, that's really good news. And our message yesterday was that we do need to support and fund our traditional public schools to still take issue with the unregulated expansion of charters and private vouchers, which is very concerning because it's math, and there's only so much so many resources and to go around, but encouraged by our teachers and the momentum that we have moving into this legislative session that started, I guess, today.
Today.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Great.
All right. Ms. Wood, under continuing concerns?
Yes, we've talked about this a time or two. I just wanted us to see how the group feels about really working on getting an annual report of our strategic goals. The way we're doing it now is kind of, we get a report 1 month, we hear about what's going on, then we get a report. But right now, we have nothing that sort of summarizes our year, and I just think we need to do that. I've talked to Dr. Gale about it. She's in agreement with that. Now that we have Heather, maybe we can get someone who can help write that up. But I think the public needs to know what we've accomplished for the year of our goals, and we can put that on our website and just say, here's what we've done, here's what we still need to do. And I think that could be a vehicle for us as a board when we're setting our goals for the next year. We're looking at hard data and saying, well, we're weak in this area, we need to focus more on this, and that may have implications on budgetary decisions and so forth. I think sometimes, and this is not meant to be a criticism because I'm guilty of it too, we have our own ideas and pet projects, and well, let's find out about this, let's find out about that, and sometimes I don't know that we're marching in a really unified strategic way. If we have a strategic plan, it seems like it should inform what workshops we do. It should inform everything we do. So I would just like us to start moving in that direction and maybe come up with a date, like every year, January, whatever it is, we have a report. It says what we did, and then have our workshops and our retreats after we've seen that report to help us form, okay, what is it we want to do next? So I'm just bringing this up, want to see how you all feel about that.
I think Mr. Jones wanted to comment.
I think your point is well made. I know we had a strategic meeting with the foundation, but that was not our strategic planning session, was it?
Yeah, correct.
So there is another strategic planning session that awaits us that will then ultimately, as she describes, and as I have said before, will then ultimately inform our budget moving forward. Because we talked about our strategic plan ultimately informing the budget that we submit. We talked about also having discussions about how we will participate more as individuals in the budget process, such that we will create the type of legacy impact where our concerns, our interests are manifest in the way that we spend our money in the district. So when does that, have we said when that will occur?
I don't know that we've said, and I would love to get an answer, but one thing I would add is that what we have initiated as promised is we've asked our CFO, Ms. Banks, to come with a series of budget-related presentations so that we can dig deeper into the budget than we have. And so as we are doing that throughout the year, I would say if and when you see a space that you think that's not where I want to be spending that money, I want that chunk of money to be, just put a pin in that, as the superintendent likes to say, that maybe that's a bucket of money that would potentially be available to be redirected. I don't think you're going to find a lot. That's what I'm concerned about.
No.
So, but that's not to say that we shouldn't be digging in there and looking for it. So.
I agree, but one of the things that I thought was important about what we did in our last discussion, when we provided our 3 issues of items, one thing that I have not forgotten and that I recant quite frequently, when you, Madam Chair, threw down the gauntlet and said that safety was your issue, and that you held it sacrosanct, and that you were not interested in voting on other projects lest you felt satisfied. So all of us have areas of interest. Ms. Wood, issue was information, right? You talked about cultural sensitivity training.
Yeah, I did.
Which we have not seen, and that I'm not aware that we've had. But I'm just saying, so that type of, and then the fact that we'll come back and revisit it as you've described holds us all accountable for that which we say are our issues of impact and why we sit at this dais.
Also, just measuring what we've done. We need a list, like, and there's 5 pillars, so it seems like just like you would do an annual report for anything, the county does a very, very intensive,
And those copies.
we don't need to do a slick, glossy, expensive annual report, but we can do things digitally, and we can put it on our website, and I think the public
Ms.
needs
Strickland? Excuse
to
me.
know that.
Thanks. And in combination with that, then I apologize for missing agenda review yesterday at a work conflict, and I will miss the next one on the 27th. But it dovetails with that. I'd spoken with Dr. Gale over the holiday about looking at our workshops, even our reports that we've heard. What all have we talked about over the last year? And let's see if we can organize that into some kind of annual process, and I think that'll feed right into both everybody where we're talking about. So we're not wearing people out over and over again with the same questions, the same reports, and possibly finding a little more space in between them, whatever it happens to be about, but finding a more, and knowing that at the end of a school year, we're definitely getting an update on Disc Village and our mental health, how many students did we see that year and how do we see them? We're definitely going to get an update on Lively and how many kids went through there and was there an increase or decrease in the programs. Our dual enrollment, we're definitely going to see. So these things that we can count on an annual basis, so not in the middle of the year we're not saying, hey, you know what? I haven't heard about this in a while. Let's talk about this. So I
Seems
think,
pretty random.
yeah, it's very random, yeah. But I think that'll help feed into our strategic, I just think it goes into the whole organization and how we operate as a board and also how we ask staff for things, because I think we wear them out. We don't mean to. I can absolutely tell you guys that, but I think if it would help everybody if we had more of a succinct process. So I'd asked Dr. Gill, and I think she was moving in that direction anyway. And so over the next couple of weeks, just to see the list of everything we've talked about in the last year, or 2 years, and see if there's some kind of pattern, and we can then start scheduling stuff for the next year. So that kind of feeds right into
Madam
that.
Chair.
Ms. Bowen,
So-
and then Mr. Jones.
So are we now moving toward coming up with a date by which we want to have all of this happen? It sounds like we're trying to zero in on that, and I'm all for and on the same page with the kind of information that we need and need to have it shared, but I think I'm just not hearing still clearly in my mind any dates or time. Is that where we're trying to go to?
If I could say something, I know, we always wait for school grades.
Right.
So we don't know until the summer about school grades. I just don't want school grades to be our only annual report. And that's
Okay.
sort of what it
Yeah.
morphs into, because we don't have any other thing that's formalized. So that's what we talk about all the time in the schools. That's all they, all they think about, but they think about it a lot. So I think if we have, look at our strategic plan and say, what are the things we really want to know about in our annual report every year? Is it discipline? Is it suspension? Is it climate survey? Those kinds of things that are measurable. And then we set a date, like in the fall. I'm not going to say the date here, but Dr. Gale and Superintendent could talk about it, and that we can expect it every year, that we'll have an annual report that'll tell us our benchmarks and how we met them, and that'll help us lead into the following year when we're setting our new goals. Does that make sense?
It does.
We don't
And-
do an
and-
annual report now?
Not formally.
And actually, I would like to receive, I think I still have the floor, I guess, I don't know, a annual report.
Let me just say this.
What?
I think we have lots and lots of little annual reports.
We do.
But we don't have anything compiled.
Okay,
to,
we can do that.
Okay.
I
We
think
can
that
pull that
piles
together.
forgive me for interrupting.
Okay.
We do. They give us data
We give,
all the time.
every, how
I
that
just
is.
don't know
Here's
where
a
it
report
is.
from this.
Right.
I do.
And I think when we look at what we were just talking about, Dr. Gill puts it all together, we'll be able to pick out and say, you know what, we want that, and that in our annual report.
Right.
That should be issued every year in.
A certain time. And actually, I want to carry it a step further. I think it's fine to have it on the computer, but I want to get something in the mail as I get from my city and county governments, a nice, slick piece of paper that says, here is your annual report. I don't know how expensive it is, but it says that we're using tax dollars, and I just think that it's all about, what's that word we always use?
Accountability?
Accountability and public relations and all the other wonderful things we do. So I don't want to just limit it to, well, you have to go here and you pull it up and you've got it. Put something in the hands of our constituents. And if we can't do that budgetarily, well,
Hospital does it.
well, yep. And so I'd like for our constituents to get that from us. We've got some people in place now to do some things like that. And I think our organization is big enough, and we certainly, I think, value what we have, and I want us to show that to the community.
So
Yeah.
just in an effort to sort of bring this in for a landing, Mr. Superintendent,
He's just sitting there.
would you get with your staff, your leadership team, and contemplate the best way to compile all the various pieces?
A lot of pieces.
There are a lot of pieces.
And I don't think it's necessarily the starting point is compiling all of those pieces. In my mind, the starting point is us identifying the pieces that we want. And if we can even identify that in the months to come and then set July 1, set our fiscal, are we fiscal July 1, Kim? Yes. So set our fiscal year that come July 1, we have, I mean, it tracks the school year too. So come July 1, we have an outline planned for the fiscal and school year 2021 of what we're going to do. But that gives us from now until the end of June to sort of look at everything and start organizing it. I mean, I think that's yeah, and if we set our workshops where we focus a chunk of that on our Monday workshop as to massage that information and develop what we want, then we should be on track to have something produced in writing by June, you know, and then it'll be a work in progress.
And it may be that we need to look at how this exercise or endeavor would track with accreditation and other things that require us to have big reports done. So I don't know what cycle, where are we on the cycle? 2023. Okay, so we need something before then. Anyway, but we'll hand that back to you guys and see if we can have an update maybe at the next agenda review about where you think you would like to, and how you think you'd like to respond.
Yeah, so let me get with my staff and flush some of this out. I mean, right now we're just basically reacting to 5 individuals, needs and requests. And if we can do it in a more succinct, comprehensive way, that would certainly help us. So if we said, well, in June, after graduation ceremonies are over, the middle of June, we're going to give an end of the year. This is how our year ended.
Right, that's
We're still
the date.
waiting on school grades, but notwithstanding school grades, this is what we accomplished. These were the goals we set. And then in July, once we see what funds are available to enhance or to have the budget discussion, then in July we review school grades and we talk about budget allocations for the next year. But I think because there are so many parts and pieces that we need to be strategic about it. I don't want to give you stuff that you don't want. And we saw yesterday, we went over an hour just on, what was the first item, the first agenda?
Riley.
Well, we went an hour on Riley.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, but
was
there's
good.
and everything we do is important, but there's just a lot. So if y'all can maybe drill down on exactly what it is you want, and I tell these guys all the time, guys, don't stand up there for an hour. Just but I'm afraid I won't. I'm afraid I won't. But
Don't be afraid.
so we want to. So I want to drill down on about preparing the God bless the county, but I'm gonna need some staff that can prepare a document if we want to hand out something that they hand out at the hospital or they hand out like the county does. I mean, these people are already taxed as it is. Then I'm gonna need to have some help.
Well, I mean, also one of the issues that we talked about was public information, right? That was the reason why you and this board thought that bringing some additional assistance beyond Mr. Petley to handle messaging. Well, a part of that message is how the public is made aware of how it's nothing but good, right? People would be amazed to know the enormity of what we manage, right? And then when they see those numbers reconciled and how, in terms of the enrollment of a school and the money that's made available to school, and then the grants and all of that information, the public, them knowing that is all to our good because we have been fantastic stewards. It gives great context. So I think your message is even more important because we've brought someone on who more than likely have to subcontract this to be done because they don't have the persons who. But it'll all come from all the different sources that are under your management. That person will then be responsible for compiling it, making it pretty, right, and telling our stories. This goes back. And one of the things Ms. Woods has been consistent about, it's about telling our stories because our stories are great. And we've got to do more. We should never forfeit any opportunity to tell the story in any medium because there are those who sit and wait who think that we're not doing a good job. And that's why I think that any way we can make that occur, particularly now that we have Ms. Thomas and we have Mr. Voss, your point is well timed.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so in the interest of time,
No.
we'll expect to hear an update at the next agenda review from the superintendent.
Thank you.
Is everybody clear?
Clear.
Okay. And then I think we have one other thing about voter
Yeah.
registration.
I had just one announcement of my own as well, but
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's
so-
not allowed. No, I'm just kidding.
just an announcement from Mark Early and Madeline for the voter registration
That's right.
drive.
Tuesday.
So after Martin Luther King Day, which is next Monday, the long weekend, on that Tuesday, January 21st, 2020, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in every high school media center, there will be early voter registration drives or just a voter registration drive. If you are born on a day before January 21st at or before the year 2004, then you are eligible to sign up.
Jesus.
And all you have to do is bring an ID, a
IV.
ID, so
IV for us,
identification
I'm sorry,
card. Either an identification card, a license, or the last 4 digits of your SSN, your social security number, and you'll be all set to register to vote when you are 18 or yeah.
You can pre-register, right?
Yeah, you can pre-register.
How confident are we that every high school student is aware that if they bring their ID on the Tuesday after MLK Day, that this is something available to them?
Very.
Okay.
It's going through SGA, of course, the principal at the school, the administrative team, SGA leadership, very.
Okay.
I'd say most high schoolers are really aware, and
Right.
if they're not, most of them do have a permit or a license that they usually hold on to themselves. So even if they aren't, they could just walk down to the media center and register themselves if they aren't. And then
Another announcement.
yeah, just another announcement. On today's agenda, I noticed we had a mental health update. That's something that I've been advocating for a really long time, and I was really happy to know that the state passed down something. But those 5 hours that will actually have been implemented and will be going through this week and next week, I personally don't feel like that's enough. And couple of months back, I started working with a peer of mine at Rickards, and we've been working on a student mental health program that offers mental health resources and meetings that are akin to Alcoholics Anonymous, where kids can come in and discuss their issues with other kids that are struggling. And I was going to wait until the next school board meeting because I was gonna ask Dr. Gale to add this to the agenda. But since there's a mental health update, I thought I'd let you guys know that this is something that's on the way and that you guys should look forward to know about.
Love that. I've often thought that group therapy type scenarios, especially with pre-doctoral students, if they could facilitate it, would be a good thing to have. So great, good job, Ms. Strickland.
Thank
and then
you.
Ms. Bowen.
One announcement very quickly. This is super exciting, and I'm talking to everybody in the room. Bank of America is giving out 2 internships to juniors and seniors over the summer. I've been asked to sit on the selection committee. We're choosing 2 students. They're going to receive an 8-week paid at $20 an hour internship. AP, if you know anybody interested. With a nonprofit in the area it's most likely going to be Habitat, but we don't know yet. In addition to that, they're sending these 2 students to Washington, D.C. on a paid trip, so they will meet all the other Bank of America student leaders for an entire week in D.C. for workshops, conferences. And here's the kicker, guys, and I love this. They're not looking for the kid that does everything, that gets every award, that is, we love our valedictorians. There's nothing wrong with them. And the kid that's in 20 clubs and does all the extracurriculars, they're looking for a kid who has passion for their community and wants to serve. So please, 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 you guys let me know. I will send you the link. I actually sent all the high school principals an email yesterday to let them know about it. January 31st is the deadline. So please, if you want any more information, let me know. There's a little application process, and then we'll select 2. And this is a big deal from Bank of America.
Awesome. Yeah.
Great.
Great announcement.
Great, that is a wonderful
Ms. Bowen.
news. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And speaking of passion, I simply want to acknowledge board members and superintendent, the wonderful workshop that we had yesterday evening, afternoon, all night. And it's my fault that it went on all night because I continue to be increasingly passionate about Riley Elementary School and Griffin Middle School. So I offer no apologies there. I guess the one thing that I need to say, and I want to say, Mr. Superintendent, I think that you and your staff are doing an outstanding job with providing the necessary resources to those schools and that community. And I've thought about it today. I had no idea until a minute ago that we talked about Riley for an hour. Absolutely no idea. But when you are passionate about what you do and you're into it, I was really into it. And so I want to commend you and your staff and thank them. I need to commend Miss April Knight and Miss Zeline Obana for even staying in here that long, but they are doing an outstanding job. And so I simply know to go, I want to be on the record as saying that I will continue to be passionate about every component, every inch of dirt on those school sites and those students because they're important to us. The one regret I have, Mr. Superintendent and Board, and I'll take whatever licks that I need to take as we tell our stories about that, is that I wish I had asked to have what we had yesterday a year ago. I wish I'd asked for that, and I will tell you why. And my passion is still very strong. Those students have gone through trauma in administrators, in the community, in the environment. And so all I need to say is thank you for what you're doing and to thank those two women and their staffs, and we will continue to work together. But I don't back up off the hour at all.
We enjoyed it thoroughly. Don't worry about it a minute. Seriously, it was great. It was
Okay.
That's right. It should have happened a year ago.
no worries.
And I had no idea. So I need to say that. And you know, I'm not going to cry about this, but I live in my community. I don't just stay there. My daughter's house is 2 doors down from Riley. I need to get off of this now. I know Opal. But I say that because if it's necessary, again, we have got to make sure that those children get what they need. Are we going to leave that entire generation behind? I am not going to leave this board thinking that I didn't do all that I could do as a policymaker to make sure that those children have what they need. I just need to go out there and say that. So to April and Zelina, all I can do is say, get ready, get ready, get ready, because we're in this fight with you to give to these children what they need. And I'm going to say to the parents, we're not letting anybody off of the hook right now. Come on back and help us. You know that. We can do this together. And so I say that with a full heart of service and respect for both of them and their communities. And the final thing I will say is this. In some of our communities, there are principals who are principals. In a lot of our communities, there are principals who are the governors. They are in the capital of that little community. That's what Riley is. Are y'all following me? It's more than just a school site. That school makes that community. And so April is more than a principal, and Miss Knight is more than a principal, and Miss Obana is more. They are the ambassadors and the voice of goodwill for those communities and what they do, and those people and those children and what they need. And so I want no Joy Bowen left behind. I want no Dee Dee Rasmussen left behind. And so I'll be back. So I needed to say that. Thank you all for what you do, and thank you, ladies. You're doing an outstanding job, and we're on the same page.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Jones, briefly.
Ms. Bowen's point is well made. As we all know that this is a school, both of those are schools of critical concern. And it is not the responsibility of the school board member in the district, nor just the responsibility of the superintendent. It is the responsibility of the entire school board. And so that time and that conversation is worth having. And so, and I thought it was time well spent as well as we continue to evidence brand new best practices. It is intriguing and exciting to hear those persons who, one, shepherd those schools, but then those persons like Ms. Gregory, Dr. Rogers, Dr. Gale, who provide the types of resources. Other persons are like Miss Ashley Scott, the other young lady whose face I can see, but I can't think of her name, who bring the types of supplemental activities that help to bolster the academic environment and create the climate that will move the needle, as we like to say here. So I think that any way that we are then informed and we make that a part of the public record, and then we are informed ambassadors on behalf of the school board to tell people that the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and the principals are on the job, I think that's time well spent, and I thought it was a great conversation as well.
I had a good time. I mean,
Have we
I
moved to
feel
new issues
informed.
yet?
We passed
Yes,
that.
sir.
Are we on new issues now?
Certainly. Would you like to add one?
I have new issues, ma'am. Yes. One, I want to acknowledge the entire district for what has been our laudable achievement to be ranked among the top 5 school districts across the entire state of Florida for our graduation rates. I think that is absolutely extraordinary, and yes, as I like to say, you may applaud. I think that is absolutely extraordinary, and I just think that it has been because of what we are doing in this district, and it was great news to hear. But like anything, these things must be sustainable. Now, I'm the first to admit that I am no subject matter expert. Those children who are ranking this 95% graduation rate is attributed came into our district some 12 years ago. I would hope that we would do the type of analysis by our subject matter experts to ensure that we're able to maintain those numbers such that here, based upon what we have read most recently about the achievement of students in our district, that we are able to now, some 12 years from now, be able to report the same thing. And so I think it's through the analysis of data and then putting in some stopgap measures such that we can stave off what may have possibly been influences early on, such that some 12 years from now, we will still have a 95% graduation rate. So I'm interested in knowing long-term an analysis of those numbers so that we know that we're going to be able to maintain and sustain that type of momentum and that type of achievement. Because otherwise, if we're not making, and again, I'm not the subject matter expert, if we're not making those types of decisions now to make certain that we maintain or sustain that type of achievement, then we may see different types of numbers, and that would be an issue of concern. So we want to make certain that we're able to maintain it. So I want to find out what we will do, a report of data or something like that, and it doesn't have to be next week. But I do believe that my point is well made, and I'd be interested in knowing how we maintain that. I'm also interested I want to tell this district and this school board and my colleagues how very grateful I was at the way that you showed your concern for me in the recent passing of my grandmother. I am very, very grateful for your friendship and the camaraderie that we share. I'll also say that I am also blithely unaware of what is our protocols relative to when someone passes, either among us, retirees, administrators, and I don't know if we have a formal system by which we may be enlisted or expected to participate, right? I know, and that came to mind when you talked about a retiree whose funeral you went to, but I'm just curious if if we don't have a method, maybe in some small subcommittee of perhaps senior staff or members of the board who might be interested, including myself, that we would create some type of internal guide where that we know, like for example, if a student, something happens to a student in our district, there's nothing that I saw written that told me that I was supposed to go. But I think if we know that, then that way we can be consistent in our responses such that no one will feel as if there are some that we do and some that we don't. And a policy would help to provide direction for us, particularly as, now I'm not talking about beyond us, just talking about for us as board members, right? If these types of things occur, such we would have that to inform our responses or something like that. That's just something I thought of.
I assume that that's the type of thing we would be allowed to talk about informally together.
I mean, he's talking about coming into.
Not a, you don't mean an
Policy.
elected policy.
So that's something
You don't
that-
mean a voted policy.
A who?
A policy that we would vote on. You don't mean a real.
No, there's some like
You just mean
like you know, like we used to have in the church, the Sunshine Fund or the Sinking Committee, or
Right.
you
No.
know, you know, something like that. Yeah. But it's just us that we know what we do, so that way we always are consistent in our responses. If a person who's retired compared to a person who may no longer be who's still in active duty, faculty persons, principals, that type of thing. What is the expectation of us? I know the superintendent is guided by those types of things, but what about board members?
Well, I don't because I can't. But I mean, if we have a current employee that's with us that passes away, I try my very best to attend those services. And if we have a current student, heaven forbid, that passes away, I try my very best to attend those services as well. But when you have 5,000 employees and 33,000 students, and then relatives and descendants of those individuals, it becomes. I just know how I govern myself, and I try like I said. And then if y'all have others, I mean, it's just.
Right, we have to.
Part
kind
of
of
it
your-
has to do with communication, so that we even are aware of it. But then, so why don't we maybe talk about this? Let it cook
Right.
a little bit, and let's talk about it maybe when we have a workshop or something that where we.
Can I speak real quick to his issue? And I'm going to be brief, I promise, because I stayed up watching that national championship. But to the graduation rate, I know there was some at least one media outlet that took exception to the formula and how it's calculated, and that's not done by us. That's done by the Department of Education. We don't make the rules. We just play by the rules that are set. And we play by the same rules that the other 67 districts in the state of Florida play by. And so for us to brag and say that we were the fifth highest in the state is fair, because every other district graduation rate was calculated just like ours. Now, if the rules of the game change, though, let me forewarn you that those numbers may change. If they say that we now include homeschool students in the cohort, or we now include kids that leave the state and go to a different state in the cohort, or we now include kids that leave and go to private school in the cohort. So if the rules change, those numbers may change, but we're playing by the rules that are set. That's not, Leon County Schools didn't go out and say, our graduation rate last year was 93%, an all-time high for our district, and this year was at 92.4%. And Rickards High School this year exceeded the district graduation rate. Rickards was actually 93.1%. We're just giving the information out as AP brags. Yeah, that's Raider Nation.
Yes,
But we play by the same rules as everyone else. And I was kind of a little disappointed in some of the media coverage, because it was deflating that the numbers weren't necessarily reflective of what was taking place. Well, but I can assure you those aren't the rules that we made up. That's the rules that the Florida Department of Education made up. And if they change, though, that those numbers may change as the formula changes. Right?
But my issue is not formula.
Right.
My issue is that some 12 years from now, that child who's in kindergarten, or the child who's in our kindergarten in 2020, some 12 years from now in 2032, will he graduate? And that's what I want us to know, because I don't know what the status of the school district was 12 years ago that net us this type of graduation rate. So that's why I'm saying the comparison from one generation to another merits discussion. I'm not questioning the fallibility of the information. I'm talking about our preparedness from one generation to another to ensure that we maintain that same rate.
The work that we're doing now with pre-K is a great example.
Exactly.
Of whether it's the pre-K initiatives or everything that we're doing for the third grade testing and the 10th grade testing and the graduation coaches that we put in place. And I think what these folks over, the subject matter experts, as you refer to them, what they do is they watch for things that are really working. And when they get rid, and something's not working, they try something else. And when we find something that works, the problem is when you get extra funds because they're in the lowest 300, and then all of a sudden now they're number 299, and the money goes away. So that we have to find a way to what's the word I'm looking for, to kind of protect for the eventuality that
Very
that is
good
going to
word,
happen.
protect. And that's what I'd like to see. That's what I'd like explained to me.
It sounds like what you're asking for are what are the strategies we're using
To maintain that.
to have a good graduation rate. And I think, like you can't list every strategy because it starts in kindergarten and pre-K, and every single year the success of each child is going to better ensure that he or she's going to graduate. If kids get retained, for example, it doubles their chance of not graduating. There are a lot of things that we can do to try to prevent retention. So that's a big factor in graduation rate down the road. And then maybe more explanation about what the graduation coaches do. That's what I think I hear you saying. You just want to know what we're doing, so we make sure we keep doing it.
Well, that's right. That's the goal is to have continued success, is to maintain the successes we've had. But the work of our graduation coach, and having multiple pathways for students, counseling with students much earlier, and it's based not on their kindergarten cohort, but the ninth grade cohort. The number of students that enter ninth grade, how many of them, what percentage of them graduate 4 years later. But yeah, I mean, we all want to. We love it over 90% every year. That's the goal.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Striplin, I think she's going to make a motion that we rise.
Rise.
So moved.
We're adjourned.